October saw the biggest month for Channel migrant arrivals in 2 years. Proof, if any were needed, that the small boats crisis continues to intensify. For the Labour government, their answer to stopping these scenes playing out almost daily along the French coast is to smash the gangs, to go after the organised criminal networks and bring them to justice. But while ending this dangerous trade is certainly a laudable ambition, it seems to me that it's going to be almost impossible to achieve through law enforcement alone. I've stood on the cliffs and down at the harbour in Dover more times than I care to remember, and this year the numbers quickly passed 10,000, far sooner than the previous year, an ominous sign for the months ahead.
GBNews Home and Security Editor Mark White is in Dover on the scene for us. Mark, an astounding figure.
Yeah, it's important. It's a milestone figure, and we've reached 10,000, 10,036 to be precise, a whole month earlier than we did at this point last year. At this point last year, we were just at 7,600 odd, so we are 35% up on last year's figures. And that really indicates the difficulty that the government was probably going to be faced with in the months ahead as we get into flat calm conditions and many more small boats come across the English Channel, with, on the really calm days, up to 1,000 coming across on a single day. I've watched as this criminal enterprise has evolved and become more sophisticated. Over the past 6 years, these networks have gained expertise in reading wind and tide. They have well-established supply lines for their small boats, engines, life jackets and other supplies. Although safety is actually the very least of their concerns, and often they barely even pay lip service to the well-being of their human cargo.
I mean, these aren't seaworthy for anything because they are just not made to any standard. Just show you an example of that. And that's probably not just for a child, they'll probably give that to an adult as well, saying that's going to save you. Another example, just back here, is an inner tube. We quite often see them, or they're handed out in a packet. So basically, if you panic, inflate one of those yourself.
And the engines too are completely unsuitable for the English Channel, lacking power and prone to breaking down.
You look at the engine, you might think, yeah, that's a proper engine, something you might expect. However, the organised crime groups, they put stickers like this on there, sees 30, trying to trick you into thinking, 30 horsepower. In reality, it's somewhere between 10 and 15, so really not suitable to go on the boat itself, especially at sea.
Usually made to order in backstreet factories in China, shipped to Turkey and then transported on land to mainland Europe, these boats are stored in lockups in the likes of Germany and then driven to the French coast for final assembly and launch. It is a multi-billion-pound international enterprise that is robust and quickly adaptable. Over the years, those with intimate knowledge of the people smuggling operations have told me just how professionalised the gangs have become. One contact who operates in and around the camps told me even professional meteorologists are now on the payroll.
They've now linked into the Met Office data on weather patterns and tidal flows. If there's a weather window of a few hours, they know that.
And he says they've even adopted the organised crime group's drug smuggling methodology, where criminals will tip off authorities about one drugs mule to ensure others on the same route get through.
They'll send 10 boats out, leak the location of 1 or 2, the French police sees them and everyone's happy. They tell the Brits to stop in the boats on these beaches. Meanwhile, a bulk of those are getting through.
UK and international authorities have had and will continue to have their successes in bringing those involved in the people smuggling trade to justice. But everything I know from covering this crisis for more than 2 decades, first with lorries and now with small boats, tells me these successes will be limited. Indeed, if we look at the issue of lorry migrants, that was a massive political crisis for years. Many millions were given to France to boost its port security. But all these years later, HGVs and other vehicles are still constantly being targeted by those trying to sneak across the channel. Indeed, GB News captured the scale of the problem in just one French lorry park. We're on our way to a lorry park on the outskirts of Calais, where we're told that after dark, migrants appear looking for a suitable trailer to stow away inside for the journey to the UK. You don't have to look far to spot the migrants. They're everywhere here. We film as one clambers into the back of this lorry, disappearing out of sight. Every time a new truck parks up here, within seconds they're swarming around, checking the doors, probing for weak spots to get inside. Those we spoke to are from Sudan. They're here night after night.
I have 2 months here.
2 months?
Yeah.
The fact that hundreds of millions have been spent on trying to fix a migrant lorry crisis that's still an ever-present issue all these years later gives you an indication of just how hard tackling the boats will be. And all the more difficult given this is a transnational crisis, with many of the source countries either unable or unwilling to help UK authorities. And the former head of Border Force told me recently that smashing the gangs will be next to impossible without full cooperation from many other countries.
It is a very, very big ask, I think, to expect the UK to be able to smash the gangs, if you like, without some form of international collaboration where powers can be used by other countries on their jurisdictions to bring people to justice and to prevent people and goods crossing borders, etc., rather than the UK being able to do this on their own.
That's why, alongside their law enforcement efforts, many countries are now seriously considering safe third countries where migrants can be sent to while their asylum applications are considered. This deterrent approach is already underway in Albania, where the Italian government has a new agreement to send thousands of migrants here for processing. The previous UK Tory government spent over £700 million on a deal with Rwanda. I saw for myself on a visit with the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, the significant redevelopment and other preparations that were underway for the first expected arrivals there.
Our partners here are ready. They're ready to support the UK in our work to stop the boats and to fix our challenge of illegal migration.
We'll never know whether Rwanda could have been a deterrent because Sir Keir Starmer scrapped the scheme on his first day in office. Labour was ideologically opposed to the Rwanda deal. But even the head of the government's new Border Security Command says law enforcement efforts will also need a deterrent to work effectively. It may be that Sir Keir Starmer is finally forced to look at a scheme more similar to the Albanian model, because the longer this crisis drags on under his stewardship, the more pressure he'll be under, especially as he's now made smashing the gangs a personal mission. But like Rishi Sunak before him, with his mission to stop the boats, these bold promises can come back to bite in a big way.